Okay, cool. So my name is Ruben. I work at Protocol Labs and I lead Builders programs. And today we have an exciting panel. We are going to be speaking about building in the Filecoin ecosystem. I have a number of amazing speakers with me here on stage. But before we go into the content of this discussion, I would like to scope out the audience a little bit. So who here in the audience considers themselves a builder? How many investors do we have in the audience today? Excellent. All right. So if you're a builder, if you're an investor, you have come to the right place. The objective today is to inspire you to get involved with the Protocol Labs and Filecoin ecosystem and hopefully orient you a little bit on how you can get involved. With this being said, I would like to introduce our amazing speakers. We are going to move from the very far from Ansgar there in the back, and please do introduce yourself and then hand it over to the person next to you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ansgar, and I lead a project in Protocol Labs called Saturn. And the goal of Saturn is to build the world's largest, fastest, cheapest content delivery network in human history, and nothing short of that. And there we go. I'll sip with the $20 bill later, brother. So, and the way this project Saturn was engendered was Filecoin existed as a storage network, but storage is only half the equation. The other half of the equation, or you could say 1/3 of the equation, one of the three legs of the tripod, is distribution. So imagine you trying to build a Web3 version of YouTube, and you have this enormous corpus of data that you want to onboard from all the user-uploaded videos, and you can store them, but how do you serve them to millions and millions of users around the world concurrently? It's that latter half of the problem that Saturn aims to solve. And we'll get into what kind of makes Saturn magical and what separates it from all the other content delivery networks in history before later in a bit. But anyhow, that's the project I lead, and I look forward to jumping in with the panel, surely. Thanks, guys, for showing up.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gabriel. I am the founder and managing partner of Graph Paper Capital. So GPC is a venture fund and accelerator for early stage, pre-seed, seed stage Web3 founders. We back the most ambitious founders in crypto and Web3 with capital, access, and insights. Prior to that, 3-time founder, 2-time EIR. If you can name a mistake building a company, I've probably made it at this point in my career. But I really love the 0 to 1 stage. It's always been my favorite stage of all the companies that I've previously built. Most recently, ex-founder of Tachyon, which is a Web3 accelerator incubated inside of Consensus. So at this stage, I've invested in more than 90 founders in crypto and Web3 that have collectively raised about $150 million, close to $1 billion in valuations. So I've seen quite a bit, both in Web2 and Web3. And I love really helping founders think through what product market fit looks like, especially within the crypto and Web3 space. So super happy to be here. Thank you very much, Filecoin, for having me. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bithal. So I'm the founder of a project called Bagel. So it's a decentralized vector database for AI applications. So our thesis is that all the data in the world are going to be read by AI models within a few years from now. And that's where we come in. We convert all the data for AI models to be read from. My background is that I led the AI infrastructure for Amazon Alexa for a bit. I was the ecosystem lead for data storage L1. And yeah, now I'm here. Happy to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Wong, and I'm from Astifil. So Astifil is the first liquid staking decentralized protocol. And what we are solving is the staking problem that is centralization and also liquidity problem. So we're connecting token holders and also storage provider by providing a liquid staking and also leverage mining for them. And then in that way, we are now the top on the TPL of our ecosystem. And also we hope to bring more efficiency for storage provider and also token holder to earn more and buy our protocol. Thank you.
Amazing. So give a hand for the amazing panelists that we have here. Fantastic. All right, Kate, I would like to start with you. So Stakefil has been going from strength to strength. And one particular piece that I found, very interesting, and I wanted to ask you about it is you had the first mover advantage, right? Like when FEM launched, you were live on mainnet first, right? You You moved extremely fast. How did you build a culture and a team, and how did you motivate the developers in your team to move that quickly and be in market that precisely on time?
So our team is the first one to launch an FVM as a liquid staking protocol. I think our team culture is because we are quite deep in the Filecoin ecosystem with more than 2 years. So we try participating in some testing before mainnet launch, and also participate in FVM hackathon, and also we're managing some storage power ourselves as well. So that our team is quite dedicated in the Filecoin ecosystem, and that's why we know that DeFi and LSD and Filecoin is a really great opportunity. So that our team is really eager to know how to build and also move very fast. And also for the Hong Kong event in April, that at that time we launched on mainnet and just right on the Hong Kong festival. And this is a great opportunity. Yes, thank you.
Congrats.
Excellent. So your manager, you're mentioning making great use of the resources in the Filecoin ecosystem. You have mentioned hackathon. I think your team received a grant. Most recently, you are part of an accelerator cohort. Can you explore a little bit on your experience being part of an accelerator, what it means to be part of an accelerator, and just give the builders a little bit of a frame of reference, I guess, on what it means?
I'm really glad that Protocol Labs and Filecoin Foundation give many resources, and we're also joining the Alliance Ventures IPFS Open Metaverse Basecamp, which Ruth is here. Thank you so much. I think Alliance Ventures Accelerator is a great program, and we're providing 3 main points. The first one is network, that we connect with products, people, and founders, and also many other amazing builders in Web3 culture. And the second thing is that we have many mentors opportunity. I remember that at the first 2 weeks, we got a program called Mentor Madness. It's like every day I pitched 2 hours for our pitches and speaking, I think, more than 100 times on my pitches. And it's just super amazing, and that we receive a lot of feedback. And at that point of time, we find out which should we improve, and also what's the best way for us to move forward. And that's the first thing, network and mentor, and also having many workshops. It's really many, like bringing from tech, community, investor relationship, fundraising, and so many. That's like really comprehensive team. And then that's because our team is not perfect, so that I think OV is like a great extension for our team. And also at the last point is that a really frequent meeting that we having regular meet up with with Ruth and also our team associates, and that really push our team that we can't be lazy, even though our accelerator team is working so hard, and our team need to work harder, and that's really makes this team work moving faster, and that's a really great experience. And I hope that's makes some opinions for the builders and really take some advantages for the accelerator.
Fantastic. So that kind of gives you the builder's perspective, right? Like, what does it mean to be part of an accelerator? What do you get? How do you move fast? Now let's flip it to the other side, and let's talk to Gabriel, who is organizing an accelerator as well and has been, as he said, investing in crypto companies very successfully for a number of years now. Gabriel, how do you currently see the investment landscape in crypto more generally? Keep it short. I know you have a lot of opinions there, but then let's focus in and talk about what that means and explore a little bit on what that means for founders that are looking to raise or are looking to build in that environment today.
Okay. So kind of taking a step back and looking at the market, no secret that have been experiencing a bear market. I think it's been a really difficult time to be a founder and a builder trying to raise venture capital within crypto, especially for many of us who are still here. I think we're the missionaries that are left over. So I think the good news is that all the mercenaries have been flushed down the toilet, which is good. The flip side of that, though, is that the market has regressed back to the mean, and we're starting to see valuations back to what makes normal sense. And I think if you've been in the bear market and experienced, only token go up, then it might feel like, oh my God, like valuations have really compressed on me. But I can tell you that we're just kind of back to market conditions, especially if you're at the pre-seed seed stage. We really haven't seen a funding crunch that have affected your valuations too much. But I tell our founders all the time, look, the difference between a project and a startup is a customer, a user. Traction solves all problems. And so if you are building things that people are actually using, you are going to have 0 problems fundraising. I promise you. You don't have to be charismatic or charming or enthusiastic like our friend here. You could be a terrible pitch person, but if you have customers and users who love the thing that you're doing or building and are enthusiastic about it, if you can show a chart of growth and traction, or even be able to highlight early adopters who are like, you know what, I can't wait for this particular project or protocol to be launched because it's solving a real pain point that I have as a user and customer. And I think hopefully we're going to get into some of the what I think are more exciting use cases within the crypto landscape. But fundraising is not a problem if you are building things that people want. You do not fail because of a shortage of technology. You fail because of a shortage of users and customers. If you don't remember anything else, just remember that. If you build for real users and customers at the end of your technology, you're going to be just fine.
Sweet. So that's great advice, Gabriel. Let's round it out somewhat. Like, if you are building today and you're kind of building your strategy as a founder, you are looking at, the friction you're solving, but you're also looking at the market and the use case that you're going into. Is there a certain vertical, maybe within Web3, but also more generally, that you're currently very excited about and that you would like to highlight?
Me personally?
Yes.
Okay. Well, who gives a shit what I think? Build something for the thing that you're excited about with your customers and your users. But for me right now, I would say the trap that I see Web3 founders or builders make consistently is not understanding where you have an unfair competitive advantage building in crypto or building on top of crypto rails or building inside of decentralized ecosystems. And so, I think nobody needs blockchain unless you're doing more like multiplayer coordination type games. So I always look at the landscape in terms of like, okay, where is crypto actually a compelling attack vector into an interesting space where this founder can find a wedge into the marketplace and then build some traction or momentum from there. So me personally, I'm really excited about multiplayer type of games and economics. So something that I would love to see come to fruition maybe in the FEM ecosystem is I've been hearing and talking about and listening about data DAOs for a very long time. But how can we start to build things that have take advantage of coordination mechanisms within blockchains or programmatic storage markets or something like that, where you can build business logic into smart contracts so that they can run automatically, and that allows for new and novel business models or use cases on top of storage markets. So holistically, from a macro standpoint, I really like looking at things in terms of multiplayer games, coordination mechanisms, where we have an unfair competitive advantage. Otherwise, you don't need a blockchain. You could just spin up an AWS server and you're off to the races. So find that compelling, interesting attack vector where you have an unfair competitive advantage that Web2 cannot replicate. I think there are a lot of verticals that are really fascinating that sit on top of those type of coordination mechanisms.
Fantastic. Thank you. So talking about, let's say the next horizon of value creation, we want to talk about moonshot ideas. And as VCs, we're always looking for, the next big thing, the next big opportunities. And I think we have someone here with us on the panel, Ansgar. His approach to the CDN market and the CDN market in general is a huge market opportunity, right? The CDN market, we are talking about storage here. I mean, we are Filecoin, but the CDN market is estimated as many multiples of the storage market. And Ansgar
and growing.
And growing.
Don't forget that.
And Ansgar is going after it. So Ansgar, do you want to explore or expand a little bit on like what you guys are building, how you're approaching it, and what the vision for Saturn is?
There's nothing more in this world I'd love more to do. So what separates Saturn from the rest of content delivery networks is one pivotal piece, and that's it is decentralized. And we'll walk through in a second about why that matters, especially for content delivery. So content delivery networks, for all of you who may not be familiar, these are the giant networks of servers around the world that distribute content to you. When you load up YouTube and watch your favorite cat meowing and getting fed, that video comes to you not from somewhere halfway around the world, but somewhere very close to you. And it's that proximity that is paramount here and is key. Is that when you access content, you want that content to be fast. And when you are the storage provider, the source service provider here, you want that to be cheap, the delivery to be cheap. And the closer that you can get to users, the faster the experience and the cheaper it is to deliver it. And so if we rewind the clocks, content delivery networks came about the turn of the millennium with Akamai in Boston about 20-something years ago. And what they realized is that content was being accessed closer and closer to users, and they built this big network of machines around the world to push content close to users. And for the past 20 years, there hasn't really been a revolutionary approach that has turned that on its head. And Saturn, we hope, is that first real shift in approach. And now what's the big shift? If you look at all content delivery networks in the past, they've been built and organized by small groups of people. When Amazon decides to build a new warehouse and therein put a bunch of new content delivery servers, it's a bunch of people sitting around a boardroom with a map, and they get out their checkbook and then build a data center somewhere. It's centrally organized and centrally managed. The fundamental difference between Saturn and everything that's come before it for delivering content is that anyone can jump in and play. All of our software is open source, just like Filecoin. You can go to our GitHub, star our GitHub, and you can download and run our software and on a machine of yours without asking anyone for permission, without asking him or her, or especially me. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. Run the software, and all of a sudden you're catapulted into the world of Saturn, and your server is storing content and serving content to users around the world. And what this means is no longer is the edge of the network limited by a bunch of stodgy guys in suits cutting checks in a boardroom, but it's limited by you and the world and the community. And this lets the network and the edge of that network get ever closer to end users, closer than it's ever been before. And we'll talk a bit about statistics and kind of how Saturn has grown in a bit, because that's the most excited piece I am about Saturn. But long story short, it's this uncentralized model. It's a new model where anyone can participate and the network grows when anyone kind of realizes a gap in the market. So let's say a bunch of users all of a sudden come online and start accessing content in Kazakhstan. We don't need to sit down and figure out, hey, what do the economics look like and what's the data center and how much hardware should we put there? The market decides that. Everyone in Kazakhstan now has access to the software and can load that software on servers, plug those servers to the internet and start running the software and providing content to users. And when they provide that content to users, they're remunerated for their content, for how quickly they deliver that content in Filecoin itself. So Saturn is also built on top of Filecoin, and Filecoin is an integral part of that. So anyhow, that's a little piece of what separates Saturn from every other content delivery network that's existed prior, and why I'm so tickled pink by the opportunity for this thing to really grow and explode and just build a faster, cheaper network than's been possible before.
All right, then let's hit the crowd with the statistics. Like, how does it, how is it growing? How old is it? What are the statistics? How many nodes do we have? Like, hit them with it.
Yeah, so that's a great question. The one thing that excites me in life more than anything else is growth. And Saturn launched, I kind of joke as people say, like, what's your birthday? I kind of have two birthdays. The day I was born, the day Saturn launched. And Saturn launched last November. And from that day, that's like day zero. And we have just grown explosively since. And to lean into the primitives I was talking about before, the reason why we've been able to grow so unbelievably quickly is because we didn't have to do anything besides write the damn software, and set up the crypto incentives. We have spent zero times with grease on our hands and data centers plugging in servers and, yanking out dead hard drives. The network does that, and the network grows, and we lean into that as much as we can. So we launched with 0 servers on my second birthday last November in Lisbon. And since then, we've grown to over 3,500 points of presence worldwide. Now, let me give you some perspective there. So Cloudflare, which you guys may have heard of, is kind of the de facto gold standard for a lot of content delivery networks. They have 250 points of presence. And in a little over a year, we've grown to 3,500. Now, to be fair, they're not quite the same. It's apples and oranges. Cloudflare's points of presence are much larger, Saturn's are much smaller, but that's exactly the point I want to emphasize, is that our network has been able to grow far faster for far less capital invested because of this flip in incentives, where anyone can plug in a server and anyone can join. And so in that past kind of year and a half, a little less than a year and a half, we've grown from zero network presence in the world to 3,500 points of presence around the world. And we have a neat tool. You can go to explore.saturn.tech. And on a beautiful spinning 3D globe, you can see where all these servers are around the world and a bunch of statistics, how many retrievals they're serving, the amount of bandwidth they're serving, how much Filecoin they're earning, etc. All this is open. All this is public. And that's another key piece, is no one's ever built a public content delivery network like this, where it's owned by humanity. And you can go and take a look.
Fantastic. That's awesome, man.
Appreciate
That's
it.
awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Cool, man. Now, let's take a step back and, look behind the curtain, right? Like, so we see this flashy object, Saturn. Your team is, shipping. The updates are tight.
Ship, baby.
Shipping. I'm following along on all of these channels, and I wonder, what's the culture, what's the team culture and founder culture that you have built, behind the curtain, and how, did you go about achieving that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of this is also not really my fault, is that I'm a startup founder prior, and what's baked into my ethos indelibly is just ship. And so we built our team and aligned our team around that to just ship software. So our team is mostly comprised of software engineers, hackers, if you will, who just also love to ship. And we all try and push software every day of the week and always commit to GitHub, always commit, always be shipping. And so to me, execution speed is paramount. And one of the reasons that execution speed is paramount for Saturn is, like I mentioned before, a little bit of the history of content delivery networks. We're 20 years catching up. We're starting with different Lego blocks and different fundamental primitives that separate us from all the predecessors, but we're still playing 20 years of catch-up. Akamai's existed and been building the networks for 20 years. And so if there's one thing that's going to let us not just catch up, but supersede them and leapfrog them, is execution speed. And so ship. If I had a tattoo on my forehead, it'd be ship.
Wow. Okay. So all right. So from a, fantastic moonshot idea that is currently, in its growth stage, let's, move it over to Bidan, who's earlier in his founder story. You're currently part of the Graph Paper Capital Accelerator, and Gabriel pointed you out as one of the, rising stars in that cohort. Can you talk a little bit about what it is that you're doing, what friction you're solving, and just tell us a little bit about your background and the story that kind of brought you here today.
Yeah, sure. So I touched a little bit upon my background. I've been doing AI infra and data infra for a while, for almost a decade now, mostly in engineering. And I've seen some inefficiencies in the system throughout my career, but the inefficiencies are really big at this point, especially in the AI infrastructure, because as most of us know, in the first 2 quarters of this year, more than $5 billion were raised by generative AI startups to buy GPUs, which are really expensive to buy or even find on the cloud, because on the cloud they are assigned to the bigger players, so smaller players don't have any access to them. So why this is happening? Because there's a very big inefficiency how the data is stored for in terms of AI data. Usually it's called vector or embeddings and stuff. So what's happening is that all the data that are being used to train AI models, 80% of them are public data. And what's happening is that the bigger players like OpenAI and Google, they're taking all this data and they're burning their GPU resources to vectorize them. And it's happening again and again. There's a lot of repeated work there. For bigger players, it's not a problem, right? Because Google can allocate $2 billion to do whatever they want. But for smaller players, whoever wants to build state-of-the-art AI models, that's a big cost to handle. And that's where we come in. We are kind of fixing the inefficiency. So we are using Filecoin and IPFS network to be able to make the data shareable and collaborative, so that different players can pool their resources together and build a big data set that anyone else can use.
Amazing. I mean, that's a very obvious friction and a very noble vision on evening the playing field. Really, really cool. I would like to ask you about your accelerator experience as well. I mean, you are part of now a cohort of people who are right now running through a program. Can you share a little bit about, how this helped you build, and what are the kind of valuable elements of that cohort that you would like to share with builders out there?
So I'm an engineer, and the cohort really is helping me to become an entrepreneur from an engineer. And that's the biggest value I'm getting from it. So I would recommend any person who is an engineer but who are trying to going through this startup founder journey. Accelerator like Graph Paper is really helpful in that way. So just in one line, they're helping me to become a founder from an engineer, and that's really, really helpful.
Sweet. You have managed in a very, very short time to, garner quite some interest from investors and from other builders and about your specific project and the problem you're solving. Do you have any advice or tips that you would like to share with early stage builders on, how to go about it?
Yeah, build for an audience, I would say. So for Filecoin ecosystem, it can be the miners or it can be the decentralized applications, or it can be the end user, but figure out who you are building for instead of building in isolation and solve a problem that doesn't exist. So start from the problem instead of starting from the solution itself. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Cool. I would like to, enter, as we kind of come towards the end, a somewhat more vulnerable piece of the founder story. I've been a founder myself, and I know that, being out there, making yourself vulnerable to the world, showing your idea to the world, and, exposing yourself to potential failure is extremely stressful, right? So there's a lot of anxiety, there's angst, there's stress. Maybe briefly to all of you to kind of close out the panel, what are the strategies that you employ to deal with that stress and kind of succeed in the presence of all of that uncertainty that we're seeing in the market today? Who would like to start? I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. It's definitely stressful. I'm still nervous at this moment, talking with all of the great builders here. Like solving stress when you're founders, I think it's like a mountain. It's like climbing up and it's climbing up, and then it's very stressful, and you feel really like I cannot handle it. But and looking back, and you think, oh my god, I'm sitting here already, like 3 months after we launch. So that I think it's still really great to talk with people that are building like here, and many good builders and also investor, the giving relationship, and also great advice for us. And also our roadmap is like changing according to many advices. But from my experience, that to choose the one that really brings you to the solution and brings you to the right problem, and talk with our community members, because the one that really care about the product is the community member. We have a really active Telegram group, and also I think many members talking every day, and also we're active in answering their questions, and listening to their advice is also important to us, because they're the one really using our product. And so listening to them, and also investor, and also other opinions is really great, and that's how we solve my stress actually. Yes, thank you.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
So how do you manage with the stress and the angst that comes with being a founder and being out there as an entrepreneur instead of being employed and getting your check every month?
There's a lot of ways, but me personally, I try to go to the gym and do a cardio for 15 minutes, so that really helps. And other than that, actually, like connecting with other founders in the space who have kind of gone through the same experience helps a lot. Have mentors who kind of supports you, who gives you ideas how to deal with certain problems and stuff. That really helps a lot as well. It's about like being connected with other people who are going through the same experience.
Quickly, Gabriel, an answer.
I'll do it fast. One tactical piece of advice: take really good care of yourself. Get your sleep, exercise. Take care of your mental health. I meditate almost daily. I work out almost daily. That's me time. It's in the calendar. I don't negotiate with that at all. So your company, your startup, is a direct reflection of you as a human being. So I think take really good care of yourself. Strategically, I remind myself every single morning how grateful I am and how lucky I am to be building with amazing people. And entrepreneurship is the greatest game in the world. It can be a very humbling experience. But I just remind myself every day how much I fucking love it. And how grateful I am, and I just want to do it every day. It's the greatest game in the world. It's the most positive-sum game that I could possibly think of. You solve other people's problems, you get rich along the way, you get to make your partners and investors rich along the way, you get to hopefully put your dent in the universe. I'm grateful.
Quickly to close us out.
Absolutely. Last but not least. So what I would say, like everything in life, building products, shipping products is like a wave. You have highs and you have lows, and you have highs and you have lows. And the best way I've found to weather those lows is just do something. Like do something measurable. So you just got your wind knocked out of you, you got gut punched, your customer dropped out, your investor decided not to sign the term sheet, whatever. The best little mechanism I've found is just take a breath and do one little thing, one little commit, make one small change to the website you've been wanting to make for a long time. Just like do one little piece of progress, because over time that will snowball and you will get your momentum right back. And before you know it, you are flying. and your feet are on fire, and there's a smile from ear to ear, and money is pouring in from every door, and you're back on top of the world, and you're riding the next high of the wave. So just do one little thing at a time.
All right, perfect. So let's close us out on the top of the wave. And I want to express my gratefulness to all of you for joining us here today in the beautiful city of Paris. And thank you all for attending this wonderful panel. I hope you've learned something. You feel inspired to join the Filecoin ecosystem. And rock and roll. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.